Hello and welcome everyone. This is the Non-Snoozers, a show in which we talk about religious topics in a way that makes sense to us and we can relate to, free from cliche, superficial and repetitive answers. The first episode is on patience. And as we said, we try to talk about things in a way that we can relate to. So on that note, Zahrajan, why would anyone make a show about patience?
Because life is difficult.
Why do I get the impression that when you say life is difficult, you're referring to our relationship? Actually, maybe not answer that question. So moving swiftly on, you mentioned life is difficult. What does that have to do with patience?
As we said, life is difficult. Verse 4 from Surah Al-Balad says, لَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ فِي كَبَدٍ. Humanity will have its share of difficulties. Some people accept this reality, some don't. So patience is the attitude of a person accepting this reality.
Oh, nice. I like the way you put it. So patience is more an attitude that accepts that life has gonna have its fair share of challenges. You know, I think we all kind of know this. But when we are setting our goal for the future, we kind of forget about this. You know, we always think that at some point in future, if this happens, if I gain this, if I manage to have that, then a day will come when I'm happy and stress-free, which is, when you think about it, a kind of like an impossible fantasy. And I think when we have goals like that, as soon as life throws us a difficulty, we feel so disappointed. You know, like suddenly we feel like there's no point to life. And I think this is reflected in this beautiful verse that says, وَلَئِنْ أَذَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ مِنَّا رَحْمَةً ثُمَّ نَزَعْنَاهُ مِنْ إِنَّهُ لَيَئُوسٌ كَفُورٌ. Humanity has this tendency that when things are good, they're happy. As soon as things get a little bit difficult, they feel like life is pointless. But you think that patience is the attitude to accept that life will have its difficulties.
Exactly. Difficulties are inevitable. We may be faced with a terminal illness, either ourselves or a family member, or we've been working on a business for so long and suddenly fails, or our country might go through a difficult time, or other countries, and because we care, we get affected. Verse 155 from Surah Al-Baqarah reflects this. It says, وَلَنَبْلُوَنَّكُمْ بِشَيْءٍ مِنَ الْخَوْفِ وَالْجُوعِ وَنَقْصٍ مِنَ الْأَمْوَالِ وَالْأَنفُسِ وَالثَّمَرَاتِ.
Beautiful. I love how this verse explains that difficulties can come from any angle, any aspect of our life. You know, it could be physical, it could be mental, emotional, spiritual. It could happen to us, it could happen to people we love, people we don't even know, but still we care because we're human. And you know, the past few days, Zahra, I've seen this mentioned times and time again on Twitter. After all the difficult things happening around the globe, people saying that when I see other people suffering, I can't go on with my life the way I was anymore. You know, you can't follow your own personal selfish dreams when you see that there are people who, because of all that is happening to them, they can't even dream. You know, they don't even have the time to dream. So I've seen this mentioned over and over again. Okay, so I guess you mentioned it beautifully, that patience is an attitude that accepts this reality that life is suffering. I guess we can continue talking about that after the break.
Into the show, and all we've said is life is suffering. Who would want to watch this show?
I know, right? I can already see the comments coming that, you know, before this show life was easy and this is the first time I have to be patient just going through this show. Anyways, before the break, you were saying that patience is the attitude towards life which accepts the reality that there are going to be sufferings. So does this mean that we have to accept things as they are? In other words, do we have to be passive?
I see where you're coming from and why one may think this way. In my understanding, patience is active. It actually goes hand in hand with action. And during difficulties, it puts us in a right mindset for action. Verse 11 from Surah Hud mentions patience and action side by side. إِلَّا الَّذِينَ صَبَرُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ.
They're beautiful. I love how this idea of patience and action being side by side. You know, it also reminds me of another verse in chapter 29, if I'm correct. So in verse 58 of that chapter, it's talking about how the ones who do good, the ones who try to do good in the world, will have a very good end, will have reward. Towards the end, again, it repeats that the ones who al-amilin, literally the doers, right? These are the ones who will have a good reward. And then when it wants to say who are the doers, minu, kiyan, it describes them as الَّذِينَ صَبَرُوا وَعَلَى رَبِّهِمْ يَتَوَكَّلُونَ. You know, so not only patience doesn't require us to sit down and be passive, but also is a key ingredient of action. In other words, there are levels of action which can only be achieved through patience.
Exactly. Patience enables us to tap into hidden layers of our strength.
Beautiful. Maybe this is why the Qur'an sometimes refers to patience as a tool. At least there are two verses I remember in which you have وَاسْتَعِينُوا بِالصَّبْرِ وَالصَّلَاةِ, seek help from patience, right? The idea that patience, it acts like a shield that protects us from anything that can paralyze us when we're faced with a suffering. Be it, self-doubt, be it pain, be it fear, whatever that stops us from acting whatever we need to do during suffering. Patience protects us from that and enables us to basically try and fix the situation, correct it, take a positive step.
Yeah, and this is what makes patience precious, but also super, super difficult.
Super difficult indeed, and maybe we can talk more about this difficulty of patience after the break.
We decided to introduce a book each episode that's somewhat related to the topic. At this time, I am introducing The Surrender Experiments, which is written by the same author as The Untethered Soul. That one is also a lovely book to read, but this one is more related to the topic of patience. And I hope you enjoy reading it.
So before the break, you were talking about how patience is difficult. Yeah, and actually it reminded me of a verse. It's talking about one of the instances in which one is instructed to be patient, be patient and forgive. And then at the end of the verse, it says, إِنَّ ذَلِكَ لَمِنْ عَزْمِ الْأُمُورِ, that being patient is min azm al-umur, it's a very great thing. It requires great determination. It accepts that it's not going to be easy.
Exactly, and in other verses in the Quran, it even shows the prophets found it difficult during challenges. So Prophet Job, he said, وَأَيُّوبْ إِذَا نَادَى رَبَّهُ إِنِّي مَسَّنِيَ الضُّرُّ, and Job, when he cried to his Lord, suffering has truly afflicted me. Or in the case of Prophet Jacob, he says, إِنَّمَا أَشْكُو بَثِّي وَحُزْنِي إِلَى اللَّهِ, I plead my grief and sorrow before God. And even more in the case of Lady Mary, she says, يَا لَيْتَنِي مِتُّ قَبْلَ هَذَا وَكُنْتُ نَسْيًا مَنْسِيًّا, I wish I had been dead and forgotten long before all of this.
Wow. It's very powerful, especially that last one by Lady Mary. It's very powerful. I love how Qur'an validates the difficulty of being patient. Because, a lot of the times when we keep being told that we have to be patient, we may think that the difficulty of our suffering is being undermined. But it's so nice that Quran says, no, even prophets, even our role models, like Lady Mary went through difficulties and they found it difficult.
Exactly.
And another thing which I really love about the attitude of Quran towards patience is that, a lot of the times we may think that, I'm trying to be patient, I succeed one time, but then I fail, and we feel bad that, after trying really hard, sometimes we fail. But the Quran has this beautiful verse in which it says that the ones who are patient will be given their reward, أَجْرَهُمْ بِأَحْسَنِ مَا كَانُوا يَعْمَلُونَ. Right? So even if you fail a few times, it doesn't matter. You will be rewarded by the time in which you did the best. Right? So in other words, even if you fail a few times, don't give up. Keep trying, try to be patient, and your reward will be given to your best effort. And in the other verse as well, it says that the ones who are patient, they will be given the reward without any measurement, right? بغير حساب. So it just shows that how much patience is encouraged and it's going to be heavily rewarded. So we said about all of this, it's difficult, but it's going to be rewarded and all of that. Now, some of us may be thinking, okay, I want to be patient now, like you sold it to me, but I don't see it inside myself. Like I'm not a very patient person. Oh yeah, I'm a patient person. Sometimes I feel, how can I increase my patience? And inshallah, we'll hear more about that from our Quranic expert after the break.
وَلَنَبْلُوَنَّكُمْ بِشَيْءٍ مِّنَ الْخَوْفِ وَالْجُوعِ وَنَقْصٍ مِّنَ الْأَمْوَالِ وَالْأَنفُسِ وَالثَّمَرَاتِ وَبَشِّرِ الصَّابِرِينَ الَّذِينَ إِذَا أَصَابَتْهُم مُّصِيبَةٌ قَالُوا إِنَّا لِلَّهِ وَإِنَّا إِلَيْهِ راجعون.
And we will surely test you with something of fear and hunger, and a loss of wealth and lives and fruits. But give good tidings to the patient, who, when disaster strikes them, say, "Indeed, we belong to Allah, and indeed to Him we will return."
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. In more than 20 verses of the Quran, God talks about the life after death and hereafter as kind of meeting point between us and Him. The phrase of liqa has been used for this meaning, and we have phrases like liqa'ullah, liqa'a rabbihim, liqa'a rabbihi. So it means that after, this is an opportunity for us, that there we can meet our Lord, our Creator. Of course, not by the eyes of the body, but the eyes of the heart. Anyway, but a child, when he goes to meet a great personality, cannot benefit that much. It means we need to grow, to be prepared for that meeting. When we are born, our body grows automatically. But growth of our spirit is up to us. We have to grow our spirit spiritually, so that prepare ourselves for such a huge meeting. And these calamities and sufferings that exist in the world, one side of it that you may have heard a lot is they are a test. But there is the other side of the coin, which I can say these are opportunities. We can turn them to opportunities for our growth, for our spiritual growth. And the key point is patience. But it's not easy to be patient. Sometimes it becomes too much. So we need a reminder. This very famous phrase in the Quran that we hear it a lot, that Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. This is a reminder, this is a help that we recite it frequently, regularly, when and a musibah, a suffering comes to us. We can recite it to remind ourselves that everything gonna be okay. And if I am suffering is for a kind of huge purpose. I'm gonna meet my Lord. I'm growing to be prepared for meeting my Lord. It helps a lot. Even for those people that it's okay if they don't have this yearning for meeting their Lord and they only want a comfortable life. Even for them, our Lord is so merciful that for those people, He compensates all their sufferings and calamities with so much blessings and bounties that surely they will be pleased. So don't worry. Don't worry. Even those people will be pleased with so much blessings. يوفى الصابرون أجرهم بغير حساب, or بأحسن ما كانوا يعملون. Anyway, the last point that I'm gonna mention is that patience is difficult, yes, but God knows that, and because He is our Creator, He knows everything about us. He knows us sometimes it becomes too much for us and we can't do it on our own. That's why he says in 2 places of the Quran, we have this phrase that tawasaw bis-sabr. Remind each other of being patient. Help each other to be patient. So we can do this together and in 2 different ways. One, as I said, in addition to reminding ourselves, we can remind others that yes, it's going to be okay. The suffering and calamities that you are going through is for a huge purpose. This is one way, by reminding each other in this way. And the other way is that to be available for each other. Sometimes, the grief becomes too much, but just by saying it is a kind of relief and help us to endure it. So if we make ourselves available for others, just to listen to them and give them this feel of comfort that we are with you, we are together, it's a great help for others. So let's do it together for each other and for God.